Hello students, welcome to the class. Today we are going to look at the grammar aspect of Unit 4 of our Semester 2 syllabus, and this is about the usage of adverbs. Now, before we go into actually how to define an adverb, let us look at the following sentences. I had my dinner yesterday. I had my dinner quickly. I had my dinner outside my house. I had barely completed my dinner when the phone rang. Here you can observe that there is only one action that is being repeatedly talked about, and that is having my dinner. But there are words like yesterday, quickly, outside, barely, which are actually adding to that process or action of having my dinner. Now, if you carefully observe, what we find here is, I had my dinner yesterday. The word yesterday talks about when I had my dinner, and the word quickly talks about how I had my dinner, and the word outside talks about where I had my dinner, and the word barely talks about how much I had actually done my dinner. Now, adverbs are words that tell us something about the action in the sentence. They can talk about how, they talk about when, and they also talk about in what manner, or how many times, in what ways, or how much, or to what extent, or how often is an action being done. So, adverbs sometimes tell us about the place, tell us where, outside, upstairs, here, there, everywhere. Now, there are adverbs which also tell us the time or when something is happening, like afterwards, before, yet, and still. And our adverbs also tell us sometimes the purpose about or why an action is being done, to avoid or get or remember, things like that. And adverbs can also tell us the manner, like quickly, hardly, and also the degree, almost, nearly, hardly, just, quite. And so adverbs continue. Okay, so what's an adverb then? So adverbs are words in a sentence that describe a verb or an adjective or another adverb. To understand this, let's look at some of the examples. We have a sentence here which says, explorers eagerly chase adventures. Now the word eagerly is describing the verb chase, hence the word eagerly is an adverb here. And similarly, there is another sentence which says, some explorers visit amazingly beautiful places. Now if you observe, the word amazingly is actually modifying the adjective beautiful. So amazingly is an adverb. It is modifying the adjective beautiful. In another sentence, we find others quite bravely explore the unknown. And here you find the verb quiet actually is modifying another adverb adverbly. So in this way, adverbs are words in sentence which describe a verb or an adjective or another adverb. Now, let us look into the different types of adverbs that we have. So adverbs can talk about time, as we have already understood it. So there are nearly 6 types of adverbs, and even you can count some more. But there are adverbs of time which talk about the amount of time. For example, we have words like then, now, already, soon, and yet. These are some adverbs of time. And adverbs of place. You also have adverbs of place. Words like here, there, away, far, they talk about place. And you also have adverbs of manner, how an action is being done, like hard, fast, bravely, badly, quietly, well. Now these are some adverbs of manner. And you also have adverbs of degree, like to what extent an action has been done. So like little, much, some, very, too, totally. Now these are some adverbs of degree. And there are also adverbs which talk about frequency or how often something is being done, like always, often, frequently, never, usually. These are some adverbs which talk about how often something is done. And you also have interrogative adverbs, words like what, when, where, how, and why. These talk about the question, of adverbs which are used to make questions. Okay, so where do we actually find the adverbs in a sentence? If we like try to observe the position of the adverbs, now most of the adverbs they can come at the front position, that is the beginning of the sentence, or they can also come at the middle or between the noun and the verb, and also they can come at the end position. To sometimes they can also come at the end of the sentence. Now, but one thing we have to remember is like the adverbs generally they come after the nouns in a sentence. For example, if you carefully observe the mid position and the end position of the adverbs, they're always situated after the position of the noun. Now, this is something we have to take note of. Okay, now looking at the adverbs of frequency that we generally use. Now, when to use these different types of adverbs that we have. For example, we have adverbs like always, usually, normally, or often, sometimes, occasionally. Now, this is one of the ways we need to understand. Like, if you're 100% sure that it is always done, then you can use always. Or if something is done to the larger extent, you can use usually. I usually walk to work. And if something is done like say 80 to 90%, we can use normally. Or less than that, we can use often. And if it's only like 50-50, you can use sometimes. And for lesser things, you can use occasionally or seldom. And if something is never done, we use the adverb never. Vegetarians never eat meat. Or something which has very less frequency, you can use hardly ever or rarely. Okay, now one of the big confusions that generally students have is about the adjective and the adverb, and we need to have a basic distinction between these two. Now you all know that adjectives are words which actually modify the nouns or the pronouns, whereas the adverbs they modify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. And the position, adjectives generally come before the nouns, whereas adverbs generally come after the nouns. Now, adjectives generally answer questions like which or what kind of or how many, whereas adverbs generally answer the questions like how, okay, when, where, what, and why. Okay, let's look at some examples to recognize the adjectives and adverbs. Many words can have both an adjective and an adverbial form. For example, happy kids, because happy is coming before the noun kids, it's an adjective. And kids are playing happily. Here, happily is an adverb because it is actually modifying the verb playing. Smooth rock, adjective. Running smoothly, adverb. Good night, adjective. Eating well, adverb. Efficient workers, adjective. Working efficiently is an adverb. Right? Okay, I hope you understand. So, before we conclude, we also need to have an idea about what's an adverbial clause. Now, adverbial clause, as you all know, it's like a group of words, and this functions as an adverb in a sentence. So, it can give an information about time, the reason, or the manner, or purpose, or a condition for the action. Now, let's look at some examples to understand it better. You should come before 8:30 p.m. Now here the word before is actually talking about time. So it's a before 8:30 p.m. it's an adverbial clause. I got up early so that I may give you a send-off. I got up early is one clause, and so that I may give you a send-off, this part is an adverbial clause, so that is the purpose. Unless you work hard, you cannot win the race. Unless you work hard. Unless is an adverb which is talking about the condition. Finally, I would like to just remind you that there are some adjectives which are used to, adverbs which are used to connect two independent clauses. So they generally come at the beginning of a sentence, like they can talk about cause and effect or a sequence and time, comparison, and so on. Okay, so this is what we have done about adverbs, and you can actually do the textbook exercise in your unit 4, and and if you have any other questions or queries, you can just reach to us to the phone number given, or you can send mail to the departmental mail ID, or you can also post a query on our departmental blogs. But thank you for watching the video. Continue to watch them more. Stay home and stay safe.